Hello there, welcome back to Legends on the Series X. I am Derka, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Loyang, the premium Tier 7 Pan-Asian destroyer coming to Legends in the new campaign, The Element of Choice. The Loyang, at first glance, looks to be a Benson-class destroyer with one less turret. What else does it have to offer? Let's find out. So yes, it is a Benson-class destroyer. Actually, it's the USS Benson that was sold to the Republic of China in the 50s after the United States had retired it. And it does have one less turret, but this ship has its own bag of tricks. The biggest of which is Sonar. The Sonar is incredibly good on this thing. It lasts 90 seconds and reaches out to 5.4 kilometers. That's for ship detection. It also detects torpedoes at just a little under 4 kilometers at 3.8. In my opinion, this sonar consumable is way more important than one extra 127mm gun, and you do lose a little bit of fighting ability and damage per minute, but this sonar will make you a way more dangerous ship to enemy destroyers and should protect you from getting torpedoed when active. Just remember that when setting her up, you will need to take off the speed boost to add the sonar. Now, before we go any farther, let's talk about how I've been setting her up. The commander is Dewey from the East, Mr. Ding, whose base trait reduces the reload time of your main battery for any class of ship. Pretty useful. We'll get to that a little bit later. His inspirations are Billy the Man Sims and Eric Bay. Mostly, I have her set up for guns and survivability, as I do most of my destroyers, because these traits are more useful in how I like to play the game, which is pretty aggressive, in the caps, rooting out enemy destroyers, so on and so forth. So yeah, the sonar. How else does the Loyang differ from the Tier 6 Benson in Legends, though? Because that ship is free. Is this one worth getting? Well, on my setups, the Loyang has more health points by about 2,000. It is more heavily armored, and of course it has the one less turret like we talked about. The gun's damage is the same, as well as the reload speed, and it's also the same as the Fletcher, of course. The torpedoes are exactly the same. However, Loyang has the option to upgrade to the Mark 31 torpedoes. And when upgrading, that adds about 5,000 damage to each individual torpedo and helps them to travel around 72 knots. It actually makes them some pretty mean torpedoes. However, it does drop down their effective range to 6.7 kilometers, so you'll kind of need to weigh what is more important to you in your playstyle. The original Benson torpedoes are very slow at 59 knots, so personally, with my more aggressive playstyle, I'm using the faster torpedoes. Loyang has a slightly better rudder, and both ships have the same concealment. Now the fact remains, in an open water gunfight, the Benson should win, just like this gearing should win. That's why you don't fight them in open water. Using this sonar makes it really easy to put an enemy destroyer right where you want them, keeping them under your guns where there's nothing they can do back to you, basically. The smoke sonar combination, if you've been playing the German destroyers for a while and you've gotten good at this tactic, that is what you should be doing in the Loyang to take out these big bully ships and, you know, at least beat them back. Even if you don't get the kill on them, look how much health this gearing lost. What a shame. So you could play Loyang as kind of a hybrid between American gunboats such as the Benson and Fletcher, of which we're all pretty familiar with. Those ships have been out since the game launched. Or like the German ships, again, utilizing the sonar to play aggressively in caps, just making sure to keep an eye out for the bigger fish we call radar cruisers. But getting into caps like this, screening for torpedoes for the ships behind you and smoking up to use the guns is important. The smoke screen is fantastic. An awesome American smokescreen that lasts forever, and you have, 2 minutes to where you're safe and can farm damage or do whatever you need to do. On this note, I think it's kind of important to have a little teachable moment here, because I've been seeing this happening even in the higher tiers. If you're in a destroyer and you're the most frontline ship on your flank, if there are no aircraft, carriers, spotting, or planes in the air, if you smoke up and choose to stay in your smoke screen, you will not only be blind and not be able to shoot anything, but you will have effectively blinded your whole team behind you. So just keep in mind that if you're the frontmost ship, try not to smoke all the way across because you're going to be blinding your team. Back to the Loyang, the gun speed is pretty decent. Just don't play the Friesland right before you play this one, or it will make you feel like you have an eye while reload. The Friesland is insane. We'll have a video on that later this week. Yes, Loyang guns are just like the Fletchers. They do the same exact damage, just a little bit slower reload, which is good because you're going to be facing a lot of super powerful destroyers in this thing at higher tiers. Most of the matches I played yesterday were against legendary ship destroyers. Lots of fights against enemy gearings. You just have to be very careful in picking your battles. Make sure you're not engaging something that could eat your lunch. Unfortunately, that could include a lot of things at these higher tiers. Fletcher, Akazuki, Friesland, Gearing, Kaba. Keep an eye out for Tashkent, Lafantask. If you are going to engage any of those more powerful ships, make sure you pick the terms of the engagement. Kind of like I did against that Gearing. Try to hook them with the Sonar smoke trap, or just rush an unsuspecting enemy destroyer in their smoke using your sonar, and you will have achieved the same thing. Well, here in this match, I knew that I got the better of this Gearing, and I'm trying to hunt him down. I want to get rid of him, and if possible, the Kagero, which I'm sure at this point it looks like he's fled C and is coming to the middle. I would have already caught up to him and killed him probably, but I thought for sure that Amalfi was rushing into C. The way it looked like his spotter plane was positioned, I thought that he was coming in right for me, so I was trying to retreat back to our Yamato, which was on grid Z32 down south there of the southernmost island. So this is how I've been playing this thing, hunting enemy destroyers and trying to smoke sonar trap them, using torpedoes occasionally when I can. The Grosser Kurfürst at the beginning there, he had kind of a knee-jerk reaction, as a lot of players do. As soon as they see a flood, they like to hit that damage con button. So I staggered the second set of torpedoes just a few seconds after that, and lo and behold, we caught him with another torpedo and a flood on the bow, and that was good for quite a bit of damage. We find the Kagero, and although I didn't really have to smoke up here, I probably could have just finished him off. I didn't want to take any unnecessary damage from the Yamato if he was looking at me, or even some long-range shots from the Tier 7 Italian cruiser over there. So when it comes down to the choice between these two ships, originally I thought it would be no competition, that I would just want to take the Friesland. But after playing the Loyang, this thing's pretty fun and it's well balanced, and I think you could do very well in it. Like I talked about earlier, the commanders, that could play a part in your decision. Mr. Bing here, his base trait adds 4% to the reload speed of any ship that you put him on if he were a 16-4 commander. So that could be a great inspiration for lots of different ships, especially with destroyers if you do not have Vincent Mordoff, the Halloween 2.0 commander from last year. Being fully leveled, like I said, 4%. This is pretty appealing also if you do not have a high-level Membelli or D. Revel. So if you don't want to put points into the Italian cruiser commander or Italian battleship commander to buff reloads there, you could put him into this guy. Jerzy Swirsky, of course, he's been around for a long while now, but if you don't know, he adds 4% to the concealment to any ship if he is maxed level. That could be a battleship, cruiser, or destroyer as well. So he's a very good inspiration. You can kind of use him to buff Eric Bay and destroyers and do double concealment builds, or sneaky cruisers or battleships. Pretty interesting choice. There are a couple things to take into account when making your decision between the Friesland or the Loyang, but I think I will save some of the other points for the Friesland video because the rest of this video is boring. Because the Amalfi, I could rant, but let's not. So let's skip to the end here and check out the scoreboard. Let me know which one you guys are going to cop and which one you're going to drop. I'm really curious, but I'm thinking it's going to be like a 75% to 25% ratio of Friesland over the Loyang. But honestly, the ship really surprised me. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. And now I feel like the choice is going to be harder for me anyways. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the Friesland video a little bit later this week. All right, see ya.